Taxes. We have something for everyone at every level in their financial journey. Because it's a journey, right? Whether we are fresh out of college and starting a new role, whether we're trying to get into a better career space and figure out how much to contribute to our 401ks, your financial journey is incredibly important. And I'm sure you would agree, there is no better time to start than today. The past is the past. Let's start today. So even we try to teach our young people, right? Save your money. Save, save, save. Invest your money. Invest, invest, invest. So pat yourself on the back and give yourself a round of applause for being here, for taking some steps towards your journey. That's a bold applause. Come on, y'all. So we have a number of phenomenal guest speakers today. They will be introduced as we get into it, so I'm not going to go into details now, but I did want to take care of a few housekeeping things now. First and foremost, I would like for you to share this event. I hope you did that in the past already. I hope you shared this event on your social media. I hope you were able to invite somebody to come out to this event, again, because we're going to learn a lot. Secondly, take notes. It is scientifically proven that when you take notes, you remember things better, right? So the good thing about it is we will have some time today with all of our guest speakers to ask some Q&A during the course of their presentation as well as afterwards, right? So even if you don't get a chance to ask your question during their specific presentation, you'll definitely have some time afterwards to speak with them as well. There's going to be opportunities for you to sign up to get consultations. We've got giveaways. We've got books. We've got a ton of things to help you with your financial journey, okay? Other housekeeping matters, if you registered, please make sure your raffle ticket had a star on the back. I don't think food is going to be a problem. Our congregation, for those of you who are visiting, this is a community event that we put on specifically for the community. So it's open and it's free. So everything that you see here today, from the food to the drinks to the fruit to the decorations, are donated by our members. So please give the PG Church of Christ members a round of applause. So if you registered, make sure you got a ticket with a star on the back. If you didn't register, you still get a raffle ticket. Everybody's going to be able to eat. Don't even worry about it. So any other housekeeping matters? Where's my person? I think she's still up front. Okay. So any questions or concerns, you can reach out to me. You can also reach out to Sister Vanessa Sapp right here in the front. And at this time, we are going to bring forward one of our members here at Prince George's Church of Christ, Brother Lou Dortch Sr. He is one of our members here, and he's going to kind of open us up in prayer, but also give us some insight into the biblical aspect of finances, right? This event is being sponsored by a church in an auditorium. So we definitely want to make sure we don't lose sight of the biblical aspects of finances, right? Because we know God calls us to be a good steward over the things that he blesses us with. So at this time, I'm going to bring Brother Dortch forward to give us an opening prayer and talk to us about the biblical aspects of our finances.
Thank you. Thank you and good morning. I'm going to quickly open up with a word of prayer, and then we can move into the presentation. You will bow with me. Dear Lord, we're thankful for this morning that you've blessed us with. We're thankful for the many things that you and people that you've put in our lives that have watched over us and blessed us and kept us moving in the right direction. We pray that as we've come here this morning that we will open our hearts and our minds to learn and experience different things that you want us to hear and be able to apply to our lives, particularly relating to finances and how they impact us individually, collectively, and as a church organization. We pray for the speakers that you've delivered here, that you will bless them and be with them, and that they will provide some words that will be able to lift us up and prepare our lives for the future. We ask all these things that you bless us and keep us safe. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. So I was contacted and I was told I had 10 minutes. So I'm going to move pretty quickly. I won't be able to tell you any jokes this morning. See, that's my wife. And but you're here, and hopefully some things I say will bless you, and those who aren't here, I'm usually pretty entertaining. But without further ado, let's start. Wanted to say good morning, and I wanted to say we're going to talk about some topics that impact both us individually and collectively, finances. And Scripture gives us clear guidance on how we are to manage our money and the resources that we have. And I'm going to try and share some of those things with you this morning. Hopefully I'm pricking the right pointer. Oh, I have my trusty pointer upstairs. Thank you. So I'm going to get started really quickly and move pretty quickly because I have about 9 slides to cover in the 10 minutes. And actually, I'm going to start my timer so that I can say I was on time. In Proverbs 21 and 20, this is written by the book of by Solomon, King Solomon, who was considered a very wise king. It indicates the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. And this verse is particularly pointing out the fact and the difference in the wisdom between foolishness and when it comes to managing our resources. We can't plan for just today. There hopefully will be tomorrow if we're blessed with that. So those who are wise tend to save and make plans for the future. Financial responsibility requires us to think ahead and to avoid wastefulness and to build for the future. Next slide, please. In Luke chapter 14 and verse 28, this is Jesus speaking, and he's talking to his disciples, and he tells them, he says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. won't you first sit down and estimate the cost and see if you have enough money to complete it? This is talking about planning. This is saying don't just jump into things, give some things some thought. Jesus in this passage, he's highlighting the importance of planning. Whether we're building something or managing our household finances, we're called to be intentional about how we're going to use the resources that God has entrusted us with, whether it's a little or a lot. Budgeting is just not a modern concept. It's literally a biblical principle that we should incorporate into our lives. I've always said that, sometimes you go to church and you hear the hear, believe, repent, and how to be saved, but there are a lot of life stories in the covers of that book. It's just not about, be saved and be baptized. It's how to live as a Christian. And so God, calls us to make informed decisions about how we're going to spend the money so we can, avoid the unnecessary, debt and financial, chaos that planning or non-planning might interject into our lives. Our next slide, please. Thank you. In the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 6 and verse 10, talks about, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. In church, we like to use this phrase a lot. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. And, people like, well, you're chasing the money. And granted, people can have money as their God, but that's not what we're saying here. If you notice, the problem isn't the money itself. It's the love of money. Financial responsibility isn't about hoarding wealth, or making our money, our ultimate goal. It's more so about managing money in a way that honors God. And, our attitudes towards money should be one of gratitude because we've been blessed, and careful stewardship because, again, we should be guiding that money to not only sustain ourselves, but, how do we give back to God, which we're commanded to do on a weekly basis, and give it back gladly. Next slide, please. Which then takes us, to Proverbs 22 and 7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. And again, there's some people say, I don't want to borrow money, and, there's reasonable borrowing, and then there's excessive borrowing. If you're living your life, through borrowing, then that becomes a problem. But who in the audience can say, I've got, $200,000 to go and slap down on a house? You're going to have to sign some loan terms in order to. So there's good borrowing, and then there's, living beyond your means. So, this is a reminder that, debt can enslave us. When we live beyond our means, we get bound to these obligations. And now you're saying, I've got to, because I wanted this big house, that big house came with a big payment. And now I'm making that big payment, and oh, by the way, well, something's got to give, and so maybe I can't give, as I should be giving to God on a weekly basis. So if we learn to live within our means, we aren't so burdened that we aren't able to give and actually give, from a joyful place in our heart. Our next slide, and this is the meat of our lesson. And actually, I was going to summarize this, but actually, I decided to read each particular scripture because I think there's a lot packed in here and a lot to take away. This is Jesus talking in a parable. This is Jesus' words. This ain't my words. This is Jesus' words talking in a parable to his disciples. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country. What do you think he's talking about? Talking about himself going away, who called on his own servants and delivered unto him his goods. This is out of his storehouse, right? And unto one he gave 5 talents. Now you might say, don't confuse talents with your gifts, and a talent was a particular mode of money, right? There were talents, there were denaries, there were mites. And so a talent was about, I think, 60 6,000 denarii. So in today's term, that might be about $4,200. Denarii is worth about $70 in our today's term. So just to kind of give you some framework of how we're discussing this. So he says, to one he gave 5 talents. So he gave about $20,000. And he's just, used the phrase to one. He's talking about many. But to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his ability, to his several ability. So instead of several, insert the word respective, because that's what that several means. It means according to his respective ability, his ability to manage that money, is how he determined how that person would be blessed. And straightway took his journey. And then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that had 2 received, and gained 2, another 2. But he that received 1 went and digged in the earth, and hid his Lord's money. This is similar to, I'm going to put that under the mattress. I'm not going to put it in the bank. I'm going to put this under my mattress for safekeeping. This is my money, right? After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoned with them. And he that had received the 5 talents came and brought forth other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. And the Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of thy Lord. The next slide, please. And he that received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. And his Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. And then he which receiveth the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth, and there thou hast, that is thine. He just gave him back what he originally gave him. And the Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I hadn't sowed, and gathered where I hadn't strawed. Thou oughtest therefore have put the money to the exchangers. And if you understand the exchangers, these are people that, trade money and borrow and lending, right? Because there's interest to be had in borrow and lending. And then at the coming, I should have received mine along with usury, interest. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him that hath 10 talents. For unto every man that hath been given, and he hath abundance, from him that hath not shall be taken even away, even that which he hath. The problem sometimes, especially in churches and even individuals, we tend to take the path of least resistance and least volatility and least risk. And we say, let's just take it and put it in the bank. And Jesus says, that's fine for some things, but the expectation is you've been blessed and you're very knowledgeable, right? And yes, that's a path, but there are other paths for people who are knowledgeable. And hopefully you will join, or you will gather some of that knowledge from these individuals today that may bless you. My last slide is just a summary, which I was initially going to do. But, basically in this parable, the master entrusts, his servants with different amounts, each according to their ability. The two servants that were given and had invested wisely returned more. Imagine, if you took what you had and you said, you know what, I'm going to take on a little bit of risk, manage risk that I understand, and now you've been blessed with an abundance. Guess what happens? Now you're able to give even more back from a joyful position to God on a Sunday by Sunday basis. And to those who did not, take the path and just hid their money, well, they don't have much to show for that. And God is not pleased. At least these are the words that he has written. This parable basically teaches that God expects us to manage whatever we've been given, whether a little or a lot, with wisdom, faithfulness. Financial responsibility is a part of our calling as stewards of God's resources. It is not about how much we have, but how we manage it in a way that honors God and serves others. So I think I might have been a minute or two over, and I apologize, but hopefully this lesson or this brief lesson has opened not only our individual lives, but even our leadership's lives to God's storehouse and your individual storehouse, and how God expects you to manage that. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Vanessa Sapp, and I have the honor of presenting our first speaker, Mr. Tavon Jackson. Mr. Tavon Jackson is a financial advisor for New Perspective Financial Solutions and has been licensed since 2012. He focuses on helping retirees navigate the next stage of their life. Having an income plan and tax plan in retirement has helped Tavon help countless individuals in the financial planning process. Tavon provides educational seminars on income planning, Social Security, and Medicare in the community, and is a strong advocate for financial literacy. His talents also are on the basketball court, as he is a former Division I basketball player and a triple major from Mount St. Mary's University in math, science, and information systems. Tavon has also he's a chartered retirement plan counselor, accredited asset management specialist, and writer for Forbes Council, the author of 4 investment books, 40 Acres and Some Dividends, Poor Dad, No Dad, Love and Finance, and Adventures of Investment Man. You can also watch Tavon weekly on CBS Great Day, Washington, Monday through Friday. Welcome, Mr. Jackson.
All right. Can y'all hear me okay or no? The microphone's working? All right, we're good. Let me get my clicker and then we'll get started. How's everybody doing this morning? Awesome. All right, let me see which clicker. All right, we're good to go. All right, well, today we're going to talk about everything. We're talking about Social Security, Medicare, your wills, retirement planning. But since we have a smaller crowd, I want to customize the presentation to what's most important to you. So there will be some audience participation needed. So just raise your hand, answer the question. But my first question to each and every one of you is, what made you decide to come here today? What was that one question you want answered before you leave and you go home? So does anybody have anything they have a question about? Yes, ma'am. Exactly. What do I do with the money that the Lord has blessed me with? And he's going to bring a microphone to you. There you go. Next one. There we go.
Converting term life to whole life.
Converting term life to whole life. So we're going to talk about that because, term insurance is only called temporary insurance, and eventually it'll run out. So great question. Anybody else?
Efficient debt repayment.
Paying off debt. It's hard to retire when you have a lot of debt. It's already hard to. Oh, you had a question, sir? A couple of them.
How to use trust in order to benefit.
Okay. Yep. So we're going to talk about a little bit of everything. And let's get 2 more, and then we'll get started.
I'm trying to figure out how to basically come up with my own basic template for finances.
Okay. Great question.
What what are some of the tax benefits that you can take advantage of in retirement?
Tax benefits. So the funny thing is that whenever you delay a problem, it becomes a bigger problem. And when most of you are contributing to your 401k, your TSP, guess what? You're not paying the taxes now. When are you paying the taxes? When you most need it. So we'll talk about that. Great point. So has anybody seen me before on CBS or Great Day Washington? Okay, great. So I'm on there every single day. I'm also on Praise 104 every Saturday and Sunday. As you can see, I'm 6'8", used to play college basketball. I was a triple major at Mount St. Mary's University, majored in math, accounting, and business. I actually own a professional basketball team now in Southern Maryland. It's called the Southern Maryland Seahawks, so make sure you get your tickets. And well, yeah, let's get started. So let's see, flip through this. It's not working for me, hold on. All right, there we go. So as mentioned, I'm a 4-time author. I've written a couple of investment books. The first book I wrote was 40 Acres and Some Dividends. If you want a copy, they're right outside. Anybody have a copy already? All right, great. I did a comic book for kids as well called The Adventures of Investment Man. So it's kind of like showing me as a superhero, kind of saving the day with regards to finances. And there we go. Is that messing up for you guys, or can you see? Okay, good. Anybody heard of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad? So I didn't have a rich dad growing up. Actually, I don't even know my dad. So I wrote a spin-off of the book called Poor Dad, No Dad. And then I also have a book called Love and Finance as well. So here's what we're going to talk about today. Retirement has gotten a lot harder. You used to be able to show up to work, do your 30, 40 years, and you got something called a pension, which is a guaranteed check for the rest of your life. But what are happening with pensions now? They're going away. And the reason they're going away is because we're living longer. So now all of our life savings is in what? A 401k, an IRA. But does anybody know when the 401k came out? It came out 10 years before I was born, 1978. So we haven't even had a full life cycle to see if it actually even works, but yet all of our money is in there. So the problem with financial planning is that most people only focus on growing the money, okay? They only focus on growing the money. So I want you to think of retirement kind of like climbing up a mountain. It's easy to grow your money. If you put money in the 401k, you forget your password, and you don't look at it, you're going to have a lot of money. But naturally, what do? We turn on the TV, we see our 100,000 go to 99, and then we're trying to change it and make some changes. That's what messes you up. So I want you to think of investing kind of like Black Friday shopping. The reason everybody goes and stands in line on Black Friday is because of what? Deals. Things are on sale. Everything's cheap. But when the stock market goes on sale, which is actually the largest store in the world, what do? We leave. It's the opposite of what you're doing. So you got to think of, just like winter clothes in the summer. People buy winter clothes in the summer because it's cheap, but when the stock market drops, everybody panics, everybody pours their money out, and then they never get back in and they miss it when it comes back up. So what I want to focus on today is mainly how do you live off the money and make it last forever? So if you look at the picture here, when you're climbing a mountain, let's say Mount Everest, I didn't know that more people die actually coming down the mountain than actually going up. There's so much preparation trying to climb that mountain, but once you're to the top, once you're at retirement, you think, hey, I made it. But no, you got to have that money last you for 30 to 40 years in retirement. And I know a lot of people are going to struggle with this because a couple of years ago, we had a government shutdown. And the government shut down for what, like 2 weeks? And everybody, how long? 3 weeks. Everybody was out of money. Everybody was panicking. And it was only 3 weeks. You're going to have a government shutdown coming soon when you retire, and it's going to be for 30 years, but we got to make sure that we have a plan for coming down the mountain. Anybody worked with a financial advisor before? You got to be careful with who you're working with, and you need to work with what's called a fiduciary. Because some advisors don't focus on coming down the mountain, they only focus on going up the mountain, growing that money. Anyone know how financial advisors get paid? Commission, fees. So most advisors will get like 1% a year of what they're managing. But guess what? As your account gets bigger, you make more money, but they make more money as well. So when you retire and say, hey, John, I want to start spending my retirement account, they're going to be like, oh, no, go take your Social Security early, go take your pension early. Because why? If you start spending your money, then they're not getting the fee on that larger amount. So you want to work with somebody that's focused on income planning. Does that make sense? All right. So Medicare. This presentation is not about Medicare, but this is very, very important. So 3 months before your 65th birthday, that's when you apply for Medicare, Part A. You don't do it when you turn 65 or it's going to be late. You do it 3 months before you turn 65. Some of you are going to be 67 years old and still working and say, hey, should I take my Medicare? You should. So even if you're working and you're 65 and you have your own health insurance with the government or wherever, you still apply for Medicare because Medicare Part A is free. It's free, it's no cost. Part B is the one that you have to pay for, and that costs about $174 a month. That's for all your doctors. So we're going to talk about Social Security a little later, but just know that if you take your Social Security automatically, you'll be enrolled in Medicare by yourself. So if you take it at 65, they're going to automatically enroll you in Medicare whether you want to or not. Okay. So I want everybody to write this down. Write this down. SSA 44. This is the most important Medicare form that you're ever going to fill out. Has anybody heard of it before? So here's the problem with Medicare. You're going to get a letter in the mail that says you owe $500 a month for Medicare Part B. The reason why is because they're going to look back 2 years at what you were making from a job. So if I'm 65 and I'm working for the federal government making $180,000, and then I retire and then I'm just getting my Social Security and my pension, they're still going to look back 2 years at me making $180. And that's going to make your premium be a lot more expensive. So this form is a life-changing event form that you fill out, send it to Medicare, and it pretty much says, hey, I no longer work. I'm retired. I've had a life-changing event, so drop my premium back down to $174. Okay, very simple. Also, when you turn 65, you're going to get a lot of stuff in the mail. Anybody close to 65? 65 or older? You're going to get a lot of stuff in the mail, and it's going to be advertisements. Stay away from those if you don't know what they are, because they're going to sound really, really good. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to take you to the spa once a week. I'm going to pay for your Part B premium. But that's not Medicare. Those are companies that are trying to replace your Medicare, and that's called Medicare Advantage plans. Okay, so they're trying to take your Medicare and make sure that they can get money off of it, and they're high commission. Any questions so far? Okay, let's keep it going. So, all right, I want everybody to look at this chart, and I want you to find your birth year. Everyone has what's called a full retirement age. That's the age you get 100% of your Social Security. Okay? How many people are 66 on the dot? How many people are 67? All right, let's say it again because there's a lot of 67s. Who's born after 1960? It's everybody. So everybody's full Social Security age is what? 67. So that means if you take it before 67, then what happens? There's a penalty, and what else? There's a reduction, and there's a cap on how much money you can make from a job. Okay? Anybody before 67, anybody's full retirement age under 67? Anybody born in the 1950s? Okay, so you're like 66 and some change, 66 and some change. So everybody got their full retirement age down? So when's the earliest you can take Social Security? When's the latest? 70. We're all good. We're good. So everybody need to write this down, ssa.gov. You should all go to the Social Security website and create an online account, because it'll tell you every year exactly how much you're going to receive. You don't got to guess. You don't got to calculate. It's right on that form. SSA.gov. So here's the big question. Doesn't it make sense just to take it at 62, get more checks, versus waiting until 67 and 70? That's the debate, right? Nobody knows how long we're going to live. Nobody knows how long Social Security is going to be around. So some people just take it as soon as they can get it. So it's a funny statistic. When the federal government first came out with Social Security, it was the best plan in the world. And the reason why is because everybody's full retirement age was 65 years old. Do you know what the life expectancy in 1940 for African Americans was when Social Security first came out? 51. 51. So what does that mean for the government? That the day that you were supposed to be collecting your Social Security was the day we were celebrating your 10-year anniversary of being dead. That's how the federal government thought of it. So they were like, hey, this is great because we don't have to pay you that long or pay you at all. But now what's happening? People are living longer. More people are living off of it than paying into it. All the millennials, they're doing YouTube and TikTok, so they're not even paying into Social Security anymore, and the fund is running out of money. Okay? So does anybody plan to live to be 78 or older? Hopefully everybody. Write that age down. That's very important. That's what's called your break-even age. Okay? 78. What's your name, sir? Godfrey? I need two people. What's your name? Jennifer. Let's say we have Godfrey and we have Jennifer. Everybody say hi, Godfrey. Hi, Jennifer. All right. So let's say Godfrey and Jennifer are both 62 years old. Godfrey says, you know what? When I woke up this morning, I ain't even feeling that well. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I'm going to take my Social Security at 62 years old, no matter what Tavon says today. Jennifer says, hey, I want to take mine at my full retirement age at 67. So even though Godfrey got a 5-year head start, 60 more checks, what's the problem with his checks? Are they bigger or smaller? They're smaller. Jennifer waits till 67. She has a 5-year late start, but her checks are what? Larger. But by the time they both turn 78 years old, they would have received exactly the same amount of money, even though you took it 5 years early. So when you're planning for Social Security, you got to factor in a lot of things. One, your health, longevity in your family. If all the women are living to be 94, it might make sense to, wait. But everybody's situation is different. Okay. Any questions so far? Can we get a mic here for? Okay, you can speak up. Yeah. Yes. Yes, sir. And we're just screaming, so we want everybody to hear.
My question is, what do you mean by a climb of the mountain? Like, is that first half of the mountain, is it just basically how much can you acquire until you hit those retirement ages? Then that second half would just be like how a squirrel operates. You just stuff up as much as you can, and you try to live off of that in hibernation. And hibernation would just basically be our retirement ages for us, basically.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. So, great point. So climbing up the mountain is really just accumulating as much assets as you can, putting as much money as your 401k as you can, because eventually, we all know retirement's not a choice. And sometimes you're forced to retire before you actually want to, and with pensions going away, you're really only going to have what you've saved. So great question. So, let's talk about the Social Security fund running out. When it first came out, it was 159 people paying into it for every one person living off of it. Now it's 2 to 1. And on everybody's statement, it says that if the government doesn't change the law, it's going to run out of money in 2033. Okay, everybody's going to get a reduction on their benefit if they don't change the rules. So you're going to see some people, some parents, grandparents who are going to retire. They're going to go back to work, start their own business, but it's going to be all under the table. Okay? They're going to do some handyman work. They're going to cut grass. But when you go to pay them, they don't want no check. They don't want no credit card transaction. What do they want? They want cash. And the reason why is because they took their Social Security early. And when you do that, there's a cap on how much money you can make. So write this down. The cap is $23,400. Okay? So if you retire at 62 and you want to start your own company, you can do that, but you just can't take Social Security. Because if you take Social Security, they're going to deduct $1 for every $2 you're above that $23,000 limit. All right? If you work for the government, anybody work for the government? Everybody. Okay. If you work for the government and you retire at 62 and you go back to work as a contractor, be careful, just don't apply for your Social Security because it'll be a reduction. Okay? Any questions about that? We're screaming, so just make sure you talk loud if you can or get the microphone. We'll wait for you.
Did you say the latest age you can apply for Social Security is 70? Can
Yes.
we wait to 70 years old? And then what happens after that if you decide you want to keep working?
So once you turn 67 or whatever your Social Security age was, you can make as much money as you want. But if you take it at 65, 64, 63, there's a cap. Once you reach your full age, make as much money as you want. Everybody understand? All right. Am I going too fast? Can I get a thumbs up? I'm good? Okay. Perfect. So some of you are going to have to take Social Security early for some reason. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe you got sick and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be here, but I got better. This form here, SSA 521, allows you to change your mind. So if you took it and say, you know what, I actually don't even need it. I'd rather wait till 67 or 70. You fill out this form. There's no interest, no penalties, but the concern is you have to pay back what they gave you. Okay? So they gave you $10,000, you got to get that $10,000 back to them, but they'll forget like you even took it. All right, let's keep going. So, how do we get more money into the Social Security bucket? Some of the things they're talking about doing is pushing your full retirement age from 67 to 70, because people are living longer. They're delaying eligibility from 62 to 64. You know those cost of living adjustments you get for your salary and Social Security? They're talking about getting rid of that. So they're making a lot of changes to try to get more money into the bucket. The one thing that I think they should do is if you look here, whenever you get paid, a part of your payment goes to Social Security. But they only tax the first $168,000 worth of income. So that means if somebody making $1 million, they don't pay Social Security taxes on $1 million, they only pay it on $168,000. So that's one thing that might work, is making all income taxable to get more money into the bucket. Okay. All right, and for 2025, the cost of living adjustment is 2.5%. Is anybody already on Social Security? So you'll get an increase of 2.5%. Okay. All right. Let's talk about some other cool stuff. How many people for the government again? Okay. There we go. Anybody a widow? Anybody a widow? So with Social Security, if you were married and your spouse passed away, you get 100% of their benefit. Okay? So if they were making $4,000 for their Social Security and you were getting $2,000, if they pass away, you now get $4,000. You don't get both. Okay? But you had to be, you had to be married for at least 9 months or more. And then you also get a life insurance policy of $255. Does anybody know why they send that out to you? Why do they give you a check for $255? He said, somebody said for flowers? So that was the cost to bury somebody when Social Security first came out. They just forgot to adjust it with inflation. That's the problem. So, yep. And you can claim widow benefits as early as 60, not 62. So just keep that in mind. All right. Yes. We'll wait for the microphones, just for all the screamers.
It's on.
It's
Is
on.
there an affirmative, anything you have to do affirmatively to make that kick in? Is there a form or something, or once you file the death certificate, will it then kick in for your spouse?
Yes, so you would make an appointment at the Social Security office, and you would need a marriage certificate, divorce decree, death certificate, and then they can process it. So what a lot of people do is that once they turn 60, if they're not working, they go ahead and apply for the spouse's widow benefit. But if you're working, you wouldn't take it at 60 because of what? That limit. That limit applies to the widow benefit as well. So some people, they wait till they turn 67, get their widow benefit, and then collect theirs at 70, and then it'll swap over, okay? But if you have any specific questions about that, we can schedule a call. Anybody divorced? Everybody, okay. So I'm just kidding. So if you're divorced, it's a little different, okay? If you file for your ex-husband, so the good thing about being married multiple times is because you have options. And whoever made the most money, you can apply and get half of their benefit. You don't get both, you get half of their benefit if it's higher than yours. But you had to be married for at least 10 years, divorced for at least 2 years in order to get a spousal benefit from your ex-husband or your ex-wife, okay? Give you an example. So if my benefit is $3,000 and your benefit is $2,000, half of mine is $1,500, so you would just keep yours because $2,000 is higher than $1,500. But if mine was $3,000 and yours was $1,000, then half of mine is $1,500, then you would collect the spousal benefit. It used to be where you can kind of do all these creative things, but they actually got rid of all those things that benefit us. So let's talk about taxes. Do you think taxes are going to go up or down in the future? How many people say down in the future? One. How many people say up? Taxes are going to go up in the future. Okay. So, Jennifer, I know your name, so I'm going to use you again. I want everybody to imagine that they're Jennifer. Having a great day, great smile. And let's say Jennifer walked into the bank. As soon as she leaves out of here, and she goes to the bank teller and says, I want a check for $500,000. And guess what the bank does? They give her the check for $500,000 without asking any questions at all. They're like, Jennifer, we love you. You're a great client. Enjoy the rest of your day. Amen, right? Maybe. So before she walks out of that bank with that $500,000 check, what are some questions she needs to ask the bank teller before she walks out that door? Do I pay taxes on it? What else? What's the interest rate on it? What else? Huh? Any penalties? Anything else? It's going to be one or two that raise your hand, but how many of you would walk out of that bank with that $500,000 check without knowing all the details? One. I said one or two. One. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that. When does the government force you to spend your money? When does the government force you to spend every 401k you have, IRA you have, TSP you have? What's the age? 73. Used to be 70 and a half. They pushed it back. Anybody 73 now or older? One person. Every single one of you raised your hand and said taxes are going to go up in the future, right? But we're all putting our life savings in a bucket of money that's going to tax us when? In the future, right? When does the 401k tax you, now or later? When does the TSP tax you, now or later? But everybody thinks taxes are going to go up. So 73 is when you have to spend your money, but nobody knows what the tax rate's going to be. We can have Shaquille O'Neal as president. He said, you know what, taxes are now 80%. When you turn 73, what's going to happen? You're going to be taxed 80%. So one proactive thing you can do today is what's called a Roth conversion, which is taking your money that has not been taxed and paying the taxes on it now, because today I know what tax bracket I'm in. Tomorrow, it can be anything. Okay, does that make sense? So one concern that people say to me is like, well, I heard that if I do the 401k, I'm making a lot of money now, but when I retire, I'll be making less money, so I should be in a lower bracket. That only works if taxes remain the same. If taxes go up, you're going to end up paying more. So if you're under the age of, let's say, 60, your company should have a Roth TSP and a Roth 401k. If you don't have that, you should contribute to a Roth IRA so that that money's tax-free. I'd rather pay the taxes while I'm 36 now versus wait until I'm 73 and I got $3 million in the account and pay the taxes later. Okay? Yes, can we get this question right here? You got to turn it on. Turn it on.
Okay. Oh, can you explain how that works? I was thinking that those accounts were tax-free, and the only time you pay taxes is if you make an early withdrawal.
Which one, like the TSP or the 401k? Mm-hmm. Oh, great point. So the 401k, TSP, 403b, 457, they're all the same thing, just a different classification of your job. When you put the money in, you get a tax write-off today. So if you put in if you make $100,000 a year and you put $10,000 in your 401k, to Uncle Sam, it looks like you only make 90. But you're getting the write-off now, but you're delaying it until you pull that money out. So once you turn 59 and a half, that's when you can pull from your 401k or retirement account without a penalty. 73 is when you have to, okay? So the way you do the Roth conversion is you don't do it all at once because it's going to be a lot of income. But you might do a little bit each year so that by the time you turn 73, the whole account has been taxed already and it's tax-free for the rest of your life. Does anybody have a child as their beneficiary on their account? Their son, their daughter? Okay. Anybody under 18, you take them off of your account as a beneficiary. Life insurance policies, 401k policies. Does anybody know why? If I had $1 million and I have a 5-year-old as my beneficiary, they can't legally receive $1 million. So what's going to end up happening? The court's going to get involved. They got to appoint a guardian. It has to go through probate, and it's very expensive. Does anybody have a beneficiary that is not your spouse on your retirement accounts? Friend, cousin, uncle? They changed the laws, so now anybody that's a non-spouse, when they get your money, they have to liquidate it within 10 years, okay? If it's your spouse, they just put it in their own account and you're good. But non-spouse, they have to cash the whole account out in 10 years. So that's going to mess up your friends and your family because let's say your friend is making $100,000 a year, and then they got to cash out your 401k. What happens? That $1 million goes to their income. Now they make $1.1 million, which is great, but Uncle Sam thinks it's great as well. And then they're going to get hit with like a 50% tax, okay? So we got to structure, and we're going to talk about trust and stuff in a little bit, okay?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I had a question about Roth conversions.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, what are some good times to do Roth conversions? Yes, a little bit at a time, but are there particular times in your life or periods of your life where it might be especially valuable? And the reason I ask this, I'm not a plant, but I should be, is I had a friend, a very good friend of mine say, oh, you're going on maternity leave. It's unpaid, right? And I said, yeah, it's unpaid. And they said, oh, maybe you should do some of your Roth conversion this year because your overall income will be low, so your tax bill will be about the same if you convert however much you're missing at working. I said, oh, that's a good idea, except I'm taking an unpaid maternity leave, so I don't have the money to do that. So are there periods of time or things that happen in your life that might make it a good idea or a better idea to do a Roth conversion?
Yeah, a few times. So as you mentioned, that's a great time. So if you lose a job, it's a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing is that now you're in the 0% tax bracket. So therefore, you can convert just enough to stay in that low tax bracket. So then you can literally pay almost 0% in taxes. So that's a benefit. Also, when you retire, some people take a 1-year sabbatical, like they just don't do anything. That's a good time to do it because now you're in a low bracket. So there's multiple ones, but if you schedule a call, I can kind of give you all of them, okay? All right, let me get through this real quick, okay? So who works for the federal government again? All right, let's talk about that. So when you work for the government, there's a minimum retirement age. And you can retire at 57 if you have 30 years. You can retire at 60 if you have 20 years. And you can retire at 62 if you have at least 5 years worth of work. So everybody write down this formula. Everybody under FERS, the new system? Okay, the formula is simple. You take your high 3. If you don't know your high 3, you use your income now. Multiply it by your years of service, and you're either going to multiply that by 1% or what? 1.1%. Okay? If you're under 62, you're going to use 1. If you're over 62, you're going to use 1.1%. Okay? That's the formula right there. High 3 times years of service times 1.1%. Okay? Here's an example. If your high 3 is 150,000 and you did 35 years of service, then the formula is 150 times 35 times 1.1. So your pension that you get from the government, you don't get the 80% like the old civil service, but your FERS pension will be about 57,000. That's your gross pay. There's some things that are going to come out of it. Number 1 is taxes, dental, vision, your federal employee health benefits, your FEGLI if you decide to keep FEGLI. If you like your spouse, there's a survivor's benefit for half of theirs. So there's a lot of things that are going to come out of that pension. We had a question somewhere. Yes, microphone coming.
How does that work with the old retirement system? I'm in the old retirement system, not the FERS system.
Yeah, the old retirement system, the formula is a little different, but if you did at least 30 years, then you'll get close to about 70% of what you were making, and if you get to 40 years, you'll get 80%. It's just a little bit more complex of a calculation, but we can calculate it for you afterwards if you need us to.
Can you get more than 80%? I've heard that, if you work past, I guess, whatever the year is, that you can get more than 80% in your retirement.
Great question. I haven't seen more than 80, but I'm not sure. It might be away, but I'm not sure. Yes, sir.
I have a question back to your 73 and the IRA Roth. Do you have to convert the whole thing at one time, or can you convert a little bit each year until you become 73?
Yeah,
then you move all of it out.
You don't have to convert any of it. You can convert as much as you want, but just when your money is tax-free, that makes your Medicare premiums cheaper. That makes your Social Security tax-free, but when you have all this taxable income, it messes you up down the road. So we try to be like proactive and start.
That's what I'm referring to. When I'm say that I'm 69, okay, and I'm coming close to 73. What I'm saying is, can you convert a little bit of what you have in your pension, okay, under the tax bracket that you are, okay, each year, then by the time you're 73, you can convert all of it, or do you have to convert it all at one time?
No, you can do it in bits and pieces.
Okay.
You can do it in bits and pieces.
So
you wouldn't do it all at one time because you're going to get a big tax bill and you might not
What I'm
want
saying,
it.
you do a little bit each year, it may be less. Am I not correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's what I'm getting at.
No worries.
Okay.
Anybody under 62 working for the government? Anybody plan on retiring before 62 for the federal government? Sorry. All right, sorry, we're in the government section right now. Okay. So if you retire before the age of 62, you get your high 3 years of service, 1%, but you also get something called a Social Security supplement. And that's the biggest trap for the federal government. So the way the supplement works is that they're kind of giving you your Social Security early. So if you retire at 57, you'll get your pension, you'll get that supplement, and then when you turn 62, that supplement goes away. So you've been used to that $2,000 or so a month for 5 years, and then it just goes away. So what do people naturally do? They go apply for their real Social Security. But then guess what happens when you take it at 62? It's a reduction. It's a reduction. So what we recommend is that once that supplement goes away, we teach you how to live off your TSP and your 401k to kind of bridge that gap. Yes, sir.
Can you go through the backdoor process?
Yeah, the question was the backdoor Roth. That's a little complex. I'll try to get it towards the end, but just remind me at the end, I'll talk about it. Any questions so far about federal government? Okay, we're gonna get the microphone to you. Does everybody understand FEGLI? Everybody understand FEGLI? So FEGLI is just the life insurance with the federal government. Usually most people have option B, which means they have 3 to 5 times their salary while they're working. But when they retire, they would not choose option B because the premium doubles every 5 years, and it's going to get to a point where it's about, I don't know, $1,300 a month. So you want to make sure you get an outside policy. No matter where you're working, get an outside policy, but write this down. You want something called living benefits. Has anybody heard of living benefits before? So every single one of you, most of you have what's called death insurance, meaning that the only time somebody's going to get the money is when you're no longer here. But they have policies now that if you get sick, you can touch the life insurance even though you're still living. So the reason people stay away from long-term care plans is because you can pay into it forever and never get sick. And then you wasted all that money your whole entire life. But if you had a $200,000 life insurance policy, and let's say you wanted your cousin to come watch you one time a week, you can pull from that $200,000 while you're living. If you have a stroke, heart attack, cancer, nursing home, it allows you to touch that money while you're living. Okay, it's called living benefits. So we don't want what's called a living death, where we're alive, but we're killing everybody financially because they're trying to keep us alive. So we want to make sure that we have a plan so that we're not tapping into our 401ks, spending our pension. We want a fence around us just in case we were to get sick. That's called a life insurance policy with living benefits. If you have an older policy, we can add that to your policy. You know, when you sell a house and you take the proceeds and you buy another house, you can do the same thing with insurance with no taxes. So if you've had a policy for 15 years, you got some cash value, we can roll it from one policy to another and keep the premium the same. Okay. Cool. Hold on one second. Microphone.
So IULs, the Index Universal Life Insurance Policies?
Yes.
Is that a living benefit?
It depends on which one you have, but do you have National Life?
I don't have anything, so I'm looking into it. That's why I'm asking.
That would be exactly what you're looking for.
What's that again?
IUL.
Yes.
Yes. IUL stands for Index Universal Life. Anybody under 40, I think that might be a good investment for you because 1, you can't lose any money. 2, you can pull the money out tax-free. 3, you have the life insurance, and 4, you have the long-term care all into one investment. Did you have a question as well? It's okay. All right.
I was asking about the federal government. You were saying the Social Security and the retirement. So the federal government, I know they used to take out Social Security. I don't think they take Social Security out.
They take it out for FERS. Under the old government system, they don't take out Social Security for you. So most people under the old system, they only get their pension because Social Security don't want you double dipping because you get almost 80% of your income. So that's why they set it up like that. I don't know why. All right, we're almost at the finish line, guys. So, okay. So you want to make sure that as you're getting closer to retirement, you avoid the major losses because losses hurt way more than gains help you. And when you're dealing with fluctuation, most people say, oh, well, if it goes down, I'm just going to ride it out, and it's going to come back up. If you had $1 million in your account and the market crashed 50%, it can happen. It's happened before. Your $1 million is now $500,000. Are we all in agreement? If the market goes back up 50%, do we make all our money back, yes or no? Why not? We only get to 750. So you need a 100% return to make up for a 50% loss. So whenever there's market volatility, there's 3 things you can do. You can stay put, you can ride it out. Anybody under 60, we talked about that Black Friday sale. When things are down, you're putting money in every 2 weeks. It's okay. But when you retire, guess what? You can't put 1 penny in your 401k any longer. You can also cash out, but what's the problem with cashing out? taxes and penalties. You can also insure your money. So people don't know that you can actually get insurance on your retirement accounts, just like you insure your house, your car, your pets, your cell phone, everything else. And that investment is called an FIA or a fixed index annuity. When people hear the word annuities, they say, well, I heard those were bad, or I heard it's like a monthly check. There's good ones and there's bad ones. The fixed index annuities are the ones that I like. So for example, if you're 60 years old and you're like, oh man, I'm about to retire in 2 years, I'm worried about the election, I don't want my money to crash, you would put it in a fixed index annuity and there's no way you would ever lose a penny. It's guaranteed never to go below what you put in. So I'm going to use this blackjack analogy just to kind of show you how it works. I'm going to use Jennifer. So let's say Jennifer goes to the casino every single day, 9 to 5 every day, and she doesn't work there. Let's assume Jennifer's at the blackjack table and the dealer says, you know what, I'm going to make you a side deal. Every time you win, you have to give me half of your winnings. But every time you lose, you can keep your bet. So if you put $100 on the table and you win, you get 50, but you got to give 50 back to them. But if you lose, what does she keep? Her $100. That's how a fixed index annuity works. If the market crashes, you stay where you are. The what if is like, hey, if the market does well, you don't get all of it, you get some of it, but there's no risk of loss. It's like the little engine that could. If you just keep chugging along, everybody should be up in their portfolios now. But anybody been to a casino before? All right, just 2. Okay, so if you're at the casino, you can do 2 things. You can either keep playing, or you can put those chips in your pocket and go home. The people who keep playing, they end up losing. So the fixed index annuity might make sense. Last thing, let's talk about trust, and then I'll get your question. So if you have beneficiaries on your account, when you pass away, they can do whatever they want with that money. They can go right to Vegas, have a good night, spend $200,000 in one day. But if you set up a trust, you can set the rules on how they spend the money. So you can say, hey, unless you stop smoking, you can't touch this. Unless you get straight A's in school, you can't touch that. You can't do that with regular beneficiaries. You have to set up a trust, and a trust avoids probate as well. And probate means if you die without a will, the state decides who it goes to. Okay? So we have an estate attorney that you can partner with. If you have questions about that, we can help set that up for you. Yes.
My question was about the annuity.
Annuity, yes.
So after a certain time, you'll have to take money out of that fixed income annuity, right?
You don't ever have to take money out unless it's in a retirement account, and then when you turn 73, you can start taking money out if you want to. The annuity by itself doesn't require you to take out anything.
Okay. I thought after a certain age, you're required to take a certain, I don't know, maybe it's a particular type of annuity that my parents had. After a certain age, they had to take money out every year, and they tell us how much.
That's the required minimum distribution.
Yeah.
So let's say you have $200,000 in a 401k, and you say, you know what, this volatility is driving me crazy. I want to move it over to an annuity. It's still in a retirement account, so at 73, you still have to pull money out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question in the back?
If you have beneficiaries on your life insurance account and other different types of accounts,
Yes.
that wouldn't go into probate. If it's on a beneficiary, it won't go into probate.
Anything that has a beneficiary, no probate at all, it goes directly to who you want it to go to. Mm-hmm. If you have any bank accounts, you want to put what's called a POD, which is a payable on death. Because if you don't do that, that's going to go through probate as well. So POD, only thing that would go through probate is your house, your cars. So you would put that into a trust if needed.
Suppose you had a house that you still have a mortgage on it.
It wouldn't matter.
You can put that in a trust.
You can put that in a trust.
Oh.
Yeah. 2 more questions and then one right here, Siobhan. Right there.
Do you need a trust if you have a will?
The will actually does nothing. A will doesn't do anything at all. To be honest with you, it does nothing. It's a piece of paper, it can be contested. They can say, oh, mama didn't want that. And they can contest it in this years in court. So the two documents you do need is a power of attorney. So who's going to make financial decisions if you don't want to make it? And a medical directive, who's going to make those healthcare decisions? So you got to really get the family together because nobody likes talking about not being here. But that medical directive is like if they ever get into a vegetative state, are we keeping them on it or are we pulling something? You got to have those conversations now. And when you set up your power of attorneys and medical directives, never do two people. Never do two people. Always use an odd number because somebody has to overrule somebody. Because even though you have it in writing, pull the plug, you know that one child going to be like, well, I'm not doing it. So you need that third person to override it. Yes?
So this question is, do trusts have to be created in the state where you live? My husband is a beneficiary for one created in California, and the assets are in California, but he's just wondering if he should create a trust in Maryland to hold those assets.
Yeah, so you can do a trust in Maryland, but if you have multiple, let's say, properties all over, then we have to do an amendment to the trust. But you don't have to do a trust in Maryland and a trust in California. That defeats the whole purpose of doing one trust. But if he calls in, we can help them set it up the right way. All right, let me get this, and then I'll get the last questions at the end. So everybody should have some paper. Does anybody have the card with my face on it? Did we pass those out? That right there, okay. So there's a QR code outside on the banner, QR code on the little flyer. But if you want to schedule a consultation, we can help you put together a financial plan. Okay, we'll let you know exactly the day that you can retire, the month you can retire, I'm sorry, and then how long your money is going to last you in retirement. We'll also let you know how much taxes you're going to have to pay. It's complimentary. Ideally, after that first meeting, if you decide you want to be a client and work with us, you can, but that consultation is complimentary and it's free. Okay, so Shavana in the back, she works with us. If you want to schedule an appointment, you can just talk to her or just take a picture of the QR code and pick a time that works best for you. So when you come in, we're going to do this right here. It's called Retirement Analyzer. And the way it works is that it's kind of cool. It has you retire 1,000 times. And it tells you out of those 1,000 times, this is how many times your money's going to last you for the rest of your life. If we run the scenario and 10 times out of 1,000, your money lasts to 100, then that's not really a good plan. So that's what you're going to get on a complimentary basis, okay? So it'll tell us exactly the month that you're going to run out of money. Everybody look at this, though. Let me see something. Everybody look at that. So we'll have you do a budget, but you see that inflation rate in the middle that says 2%? You can't do what's called a paper napkin plan. And that's what a lot of people do for retirement. They get a napkin, they say, hey, I got Social Security coming in, I got my pension coming in, it equals $8,000, my bills are $5,000, I'm good. You got to factor in the cost of living going up each and every year, okay? If you look at this slide here, if you look at that first row where it says 67, this lady worked for the federal government, and you see she got her pension of $3,600, her Social Security of $2,400, after taxes is $5,100, but her bills are $12,000 a month. It's okay if your expenses are higher than your income because we have our 401ks to pull from. But we got to see this in a plan. You can't do this on a napkin, so that's what we're gonna help you with. So that concludes the presentation. I'm going to open it up for Q&A. Thank you. I'm going to open it up for Q&A, and Shavana's going to come around and pass the mic. Okay.
What is the top question when someone comes for a consultation? What's the number one question you get from people so that we know to ask it?
Okay. No, I mean, they keep it simple. So it's just mainly like, hey, how much can I spend? Most people don't have a budget at all. So when you ask them, how much do you need for retirement? And the way I kind of picture the question is I pretty much ask you, if you were to retire today and get one check every month that will pay all your bills and you can have some fun, how much would you want? That's our starting point. So if you say, hey, I want $15,000 a month, then we're going to take that and we're going to work backwards and say, hey, we got 3,000 from Social Security, now that's 12. Another 3 from pension, that's 9. Oh man, you need 9,000, you have no 401k, we can't spend 15,000, we got to go down. So that's the biggest question.
Hi, can you brief me on the TSP investment options? I missed it when you went through it. I saw it on the screen.
Yeah, I skipped it. So the TSP investment options, there's 5 choices. The G fund, which is like a money market. I would tell you the reason why people can't retire is because they had it in the G fund their whole career. And you can't save your way to $1 million in the TSP by investing in cash. So there's just as much risk as being too conservative as being too aggressive. At least when you're aggressive, you got a chance to retire. G fund's not going to work. The F fund is bonds. The C fund, that's the one that gets you to that $1 million mark. If you put all your money in the C fund and you don't look at it, you're going to have a lot of money. And that's companies like Apple, Disney, Costco, Microsoft. That's the S&P. I fund is international. S fund is small cap. So what that is that those are companies that are not really well known, like an Apple or like a Coca-Cola, but they have the potential to be. So like Lululemon, Lyft, Uber, Airbnb. They're not Microsoft, but they're smaller. So we can help you diversify and find the right mix for you.
Tonight, we have been paying a lot on our student loans.
Yes.
And trying to save. So retirement feels far off.
Yeah.
But we don't even know where to start with divvying up saving for retirement and saving for life right now.
That's a tough one because if it was me, I would just say don't even pay your student loans, but I don't want to give that advice. But I will say that you have to do both because like it's kind of like a snowball, and if you delay it 5 years, that's a lot of compounding that you're missing out on. But we actually need to do like a whole plan for that to help you with that, okay? Oh, okay. I didn't know you were a speaker. I was like, okay, thank you. All right, 2 more questions, then we're going to wrap it up.
I just want, does your company actually does,
I hear a voice coming from somewhere.
It's
Okay.
do you all do trust and wills as well?
We have an estate attorney we're partnered with that we will refer you that can help with that.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Right there.
So I just wanted to know, trust, revocable trust versus irrevocable trust, the
Yes.
difference?
Yeah, so the only difference is that irrevocable means you can't change your mind down the road. So I wouldn't do this unless you have like a net worth of over like 10 million, because all you're trying to do is get everything out of your name and you never want to see it again because you don't want it to pay death tax. So you have to pay a tax when you die. It's a state tax. So we're trying to get everything out of your estate. But you would probably do, what most people would do, a revocable one. So if you change your mind down the road and say, hey, I don't want this son to be it, I want the daughter, you can adjust it anytime you want. Thank y'all so much. I'm going to be in the back, but if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
welcome.
Y'all give it up for Tavon Jackson, please. All the applause, all the applause. Thank you so much.
All right.
Was that helpful? Guess what? We got more information for you. So we thankfully are a little bit ahead of schedule, which is fantastic. Right now, I want you to stand up. Just stand up. We've been sitting, we've been taking it all in. Take a big stretch. Stretch it on out, everybody. All right, so again, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. So we are gonna go ahead and break for lunch. First, I want you to pull out your raffle tickets. Pull out your raffle tickets. There's gonna be lots of information still that we share. If you have a star on the back of your raffle ticket, if you have a star, that means you registered. That means you get to eat first. Go ahead and go to the back. All my starred raffle ticket people, you can go ahead. We have plenty of food in the back, so help yourself. We are going to eat from now until about 1 o'clock, and then I really want you to stick around. 1, because we have a raffle, so if you have a raffle ticket, you're eligible for a prize. And secondly, we have 2 more guest speakers that are going to demonstrably help you with your financial journey. So go ahead and head to the back for lunch, and we'll see you back in here at 1 o'clock for our raffle.